When the topic of Bitcoin comes up in conversation with someone who doesn't understand Bitcoin or hasn't taken the time to learn about it, inevitably the first sentences that will come out of their mouth will be something like, what is Bitcoin? Or I don't understand Bitcoin, or I have no idea how Bitcoin works, or it's so confusing. I can't wrap my head around it. Now, when I hear people say something along those lines, I think what they're really trying to ask or really saying is, why should I care about Bitcoin? Or why does Bitcoin have value at all? Or why does it matter? Why should I care? Because sure, I could just give you the definition of what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer decentralized digital currency. It works on blockchain technology and has a fixed supply of 21 million. Now, how many of you actually understand what that means or why it would have any significance at all? Probably 1 out of 100. If you're part of that 1 out of 100, then congratulations. Turn the video off now. Bye-bye. But if you still don't understand the significance of that definition, it's probably because it's lacking a bit of context or relevance to your life. It just sounds like a bunch of technical terms that don't really mean much. But when you start diving a bit deeper, you'll start to see that it's extremely significant and it's not like any other asset out there. So before I jump into the long answer of what is Bitcoin, I'm going to use an example of something that we can all relate to right now that will create a clear picture of the angle I'm going at with this video. The example I would use is HTTP. Now, we all have seen HTTP at the beginning of a website URL, but none of us probably understand what it is or the significance behind it. I could give you the definition of it. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and it's a system used to transfer websites and data across the internet. With that definition, okay, that's cool, but the significance behind HTTP is that without it, the internet would not function as we know it today. It would be completely different. It's just so integrated with our lives that we just take it for granted, like so many different technologies and things. But HTTP is fundamental in how we transmit data across the internet and how we view web pages. So sure, I can give you the definition of Bitcoin, but the significance behind that definition is so much deeper. I'm going to break down the definition in 3 different scenarios. There's Bitcoin, the store of value. There's Bitcoin, the preserver of property rights, or there's Bitcoin, the global payment network. Each one of those scenarios will resonate differently depending on the individual. So as you're listening to the video, see which scenario more closely relates to your personal situation. Scenario 1. So the store of value or digital gold aspect of Bitcoin would probably closely relate to the majority of people watching this video. For people who live in fairly stable economies with a stable currency, Bitcoin will just be looked at as an asset in your portfolio. And we believe it will increase our purchasing power over time. That's how I primarily treat it in my portfolio. And since it has a fixed supply of 21 million, there's only a certain amount of Bitcoin that will go around. And with the amount of corporations, individuals, and even countries accumulating Bitcoin, there's only one direction for the price to go over time. If demand keeps rising and the supply keeps shrinking, price go up. Scenario 2. A preserver of property rights. With Bitcoin, it's known as a bearer asset, which means you are in control of the asset. You don't rely on anybody else. It's like holding a bar of gold in your hand. Now, with that comes a lot of responsibility because you have to manage it yourself. For those of you not aware, Bitcoin wallets will derive a 12 or 24 seed phrase they're known as. And they're just 12 or 24 words that you have to keep safe somewhere. A lot of people put them in their safe. A lot of people will engrave them in a metal. However you do it, those words are your Bitcoin. They are your access. You can use those words anywhere in the world with a ton of different wallets, and you'll still have access to your Bitcoin. So with that ability, you can travel across the world, you can get on a plane, you can go through borders, and all you need to do is either memorize 12 or 24 words, or you can have them safely written down somewhere and keep them on your person. That gives a lot of power to people. An example of where this was used was in the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war. People were fleeing with their Bitcoin. All the banks were experiencing issues with getting people their money, and a lot of people did end up losing a ton of money during that initial phase of war. But those who kept their wealth in Bitcoin, they were able to leave right away without relying on getting their money from a bank. The third scenario I'll go over is Bitcoin as the global payment network. Sending Bitcoin from one individual to another across borders, across oceans, anywhere in the world at any time of the day can be done without requiring permission from any centralized authority, from any bank or government. You can do it whenever you want for very low cost, and that can be very advantageous depending on the individual. For example, some people may work in another country and send money home frequently to their family. Bitcoin can be used in that situation if the traditional means are too inefficient, too inconvenient, or if there's no means to do it at all. They can use Bitcoin to send their value to their family members at very low cost with no permission required from any authority. Or even during a crisis when financial aid is needing to be sent to people in a timely and cost-effective way, such as the Russia invasion in Ukraine. A lot of aid was sent using Bitcoin directly to the individuals who needed it, and very little was actually lost due to various fees associated with traditional methods of doing that. In summary, for individuals who are sending money abroad or sending money overseas, or humanitarian efforts that need to get financial aid in a quick, cheap manner, you can use Bitcoin for that. It could be a cheaper, faster alternative that doesn't require any permission from anybody to do, especially in areas where the traditional system fails. If you still don't understand or you still can't wrap your head around what Bitcoin is, just keep learning about it. It takes a long time. I'm almost 4 years now and I'm still learning, and my own personal definition is always expanding, and it will for you too. The core principles behind Bitcoin, its scarcity, its security, its decentralized nature, are universal, and everyone can benefit from that. And that's why Bitcoin's value, or the what is Bitcoin, can't be pinned down to just a few words. You really have to understand the scope and the magnitude of what that definition represents. But let's keep this conversation going. What is Bitcoin to you? Why does Bitcoin matter to you? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for your time. Peace.